Hello, everybody. Welcome to Taped Crusaders, the greatest podcast on the entire planet. We review every superhero thingamabob ever made.
That's right.
And tonight is a very special episode. We're going to let you know what we're talking about in a few seconds. Before we get to that, though, I'm your co-host, Michael, and as always, I'm joined by...
Joshua Murr-VELL. Yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at the 1989 Tim Burton film, Batman.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And as always, we're joined by our co-host, owner of Meteor, Champ Ian.
Hi, guys.
Woo!
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Big favorite of Champions, I know.
Yeah.
We've talked about
Thanks,
it many a time.
thanks for coming out to see Batman.
That's right.
Like Batman.
Yeah.
Like
Thanks
Batman.
for everybody here to coming out to see Batman and for sticking around for the review.
That's
we had
right.
We had
That's
a
right.
Good turnout today for Batman.
Yeah, we
Not
did.
that I'm
it was.
surprised.
It's a good
but-
review.
Yeah.
And it's
It
also
helps that we're watching good movies now.
Yeah.
for once.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also
Hulk
have a
returns.
very special guest. That's right. Would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah,
Josh?
our special guest
We can go.
for this episode is Terry Pender.
Thank you
Welcome
very
to
much
the
for having
podcast.
me,
Hi, Terry.
you guys.
Yeah, of
Appreciate
course.
it.
Awesome. Okay, so there's so many things we have to talk about. I'm going to give the 30-second summary of my experience with this movie.
Okay.
Before we even talk about how good it is, okay? Opening night, 1989, me and all my friends, Dave, Navdeep, Charles, Chris, probably other people I'm forgetting, like Mark. We walked from my house all the way to the Lozon Parkway Cinema, which was the big one at the time. It's turned into a grocery store now.
It's quite a hike from Forest Glade.
It is. It's a pretty big hike. We saw it opening night, and let me tell you, at that time, the most exciting event of my life. In my 13 years, that was the biggest thing I'd ever been to. It was the first time in a theater I'd ever seen people cheer. When Batman appears at the back of the frame, like when he walks into the balcony or whatever it is, the edge of the building. Biggest thing in my life. Anyway, so I saw it 3 times in the theater, 300 times on home video. So it's one of my favorite movies. That's all I got to say. Josh, tell me what your first experience seeing this movie.
You know, I don't think I remember my first time watching this movie because I feel like it's always kind of been a part of my life.
Okay.
Like all 4 of them have always kind of been there. So
They were just there when you were a kid. They were
Yeah.
in your DNA.
yeah, so I honestly don't remember the first time. I just always remember watching and loving these ones, particularly the first 2. You know, the Tim Burton Batman.
Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, Champion, what's your first experience?
Well, similar to yours. I don't remember the exact circumstances by which I saw it, but I did see it in theaters. I didn't go to movies a lot as a kid. Like I
okay.
rarely did. But this is the sort of first event from my childhood / young adolescence that I remember there being a really big buzz around.
Yes.
Everyone was talking about this film. Everybody wanted to go see it. Batman was everywhere. Batman merchandise was everywhere. It's like this and the first episode of The Simpsons were the 2 sort of watershed moments in kind of like our pop culture.
Sure. And almost the same year? Almost,
Yeah, I think
or-
Simpsons was a couple years earlier, but
Okay.
right around that same time period, yeah.
Terry, tell us.
So I was born in 1991, but it was actually so Batman being released in '89. It was one of the first select few VHS tapes that I actually had
Sure.
growing up. Well, my mom had it, so I don't fully remember the first time of watching the movie, but having watched it over and over again as a little kid, I do remember it being one of the movies that I understood. Which said a lot for, I feel like, for a little
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
But
Sure.
it was one of the first movies that I understood. It's also what got me and introduced me to Batman in the first place. And then that led to me wanting to check out the sequels, as well as the animated series that I grew up watching as a kid that I loved as well. So that was my experience in watching it. And anytime, even now, anyone asks me about Batman, Michael Keaton is the first name that pops into my head. And the first one that I ever came to know, and still to this day, my favorite portrayal of Batman on screen.
So you touched on something I want to mention really quick. Ian, you mentioned it. 1989, nobody on Earth would wear a Batman shirt, okay?
No, you'd be ostracized.
In May 1989, no one would wear a Batman shirt. June 1989, there was one girl at my grade school, Karen Brennan, and she wore a Batman shirt. And someone made a comment, why are you wearing a Batman shirt, okay? 2 weeks later, every human on Earth had a Batman shirt, okay? The Batman logo was everywhere. It was on Times Square. It was on every billboard.
Every single person drew it on their binder.
Yes, on their binder. Oh my God. It it was omnipresent. Okay. Now, obviously, since then we've seen other things like that, but this was the first time I think, Ian, we had seen it. Right? It was just it was insane. Then the movie came out, and it was a phenomenon. It was the biggest movie of that year. Now, when I saw it as a kid, I thought it was absolutely flawless, right? Like I worshipped it like it was a jealous god. I could have no other movie before it. But now that I've gotten older, I obviously see flaws, and every time I see it, I see some things I like, some things I don't like. I'm just going to give you the 30-second review. Okay?
Sure, yeah.
And I'm just going to say that lighting, perfect. Costume design, perfect. Art direction, perfect. Sets,
amazing,
beyond perfect. Music, perfect. Costume design, perfect. Acting, almost perfect.
It's pretty good.
And then we get to the directing, almost perfect.
Yeah.
Script, not perfect.
No.
Not perfect.
No, by far, yeah.
That's my mini capsule review of this movie. Other Batman movies have had better scripts, but this movie, in every other respect, it captures a magic. It creates a fairy tale fictional city that only exists in this movie, and it creates a fictional feeling, a character, and again, the story has been surpassed. But in that respect of how it creates a fictional world, I think it's amazing.
Yeah,
Josh?
It's a fantastic film. Like you were saying, the art direction, the sets, it's unbelievable how they've mixed miniatures and matte paintings and actual sets together so perfectly. And like the art direction for those sets, it's like there's never been another city like this in film. Like it's so unique.
Anton First,
like it's unrecognizably Gotham City. There's nothing else it could possibly be.
Yeah.
It really sets the mood for the entire film. You know that you're in this place with these characters. Like it's unmistakable. It's visually.
It is like a fairy tale. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're in a fictional representation of an American, a crime-ridden American city. It doesn't look quite like any other city, but it represents big city, big crime-ridden city. It's beautiful. It's great.
And while there have been other Batman films that I think have done story better, maybe even acting, I don't think visually there's anything like this one. And Batman Returns. Like I think they're
Batman Returns is arguably even better, which we'll talk about in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But anyway, Champion, talk to us. What do you think? What's your review?
I can't argue with any of that. The art direction, the sets, absolutely spectacular. I don't know if I could point at another film and say there was a better mood created. And little attention to detail as well, or little or big attention to detail. Like things that stick out in my head, the Gotham City Hall set and those enormous statues with those depressing figures holding those enormous swords. It just, there's just something about it that just it just gets you, and it just drives home how beleaguered and depressed and ancient this city is, and just just the dark, brooding melancholy of it all. It's and the Axis chemical set it just oozes. Like,
literally.
I mean, it could just end the sentence there. It just it's dirty. It's toxic, and it just you couldn't do it better. No. You couldn't do it better. And Danny Elfman's musical score
it's so good,
unbelievable. At times I'm watching this movie and you're saying like the script isn't it's good but it's not great. The editing, I think the editing is good but not great. I think that the musical score hides a lot of these sins because if you're watching some of this and you're thinking like if it wasn't for this music, this would be a very boring scene. That's happened a couple of times. That like, thanks, Danny. Like you saved us on this.
You know, even like the sound mixing seems off at times, but because their score is always kind of like there, it's almost like you can't see it. You know what I mean? Like, like the parade scene. It's visually it's spectacular. And you've got Jack Nicholson in like the full-on Joker costume at this point. He's like dancing around, but you can't hear anything. Like you can hear him, like you could see him laughing, but you don't hear it. But because the score is there, it almost masks the fact that there's something small missing from the scene.
You know what? I think we'll get into the nuts and the bolts in a minute, but you're onto something. There's a messiness to a lot of this.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute. But first, before we get to that, Terry, what is your impression now
So
of this
I
movie?
do agree about the script. I mean, there's a lot of one-liners in there that are really cheesy.
Some of them are great though.
Some of them
Yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Some of them are great.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the costume design and the makeup artistry that went along in the film. I think Jack Nicholson is great as Joker, Bruce Wayne as Batman. Everything else pretty much. I think of the '90s Batman films, this one is by far the best one of all four of them. They kind of. It keeps to the serious, if not actually becoming more of a darker tone for Batman Returns, the second one, which I do appreciate. And then you get into the Joel Schumacher ones, which are, in my opinion, I think that they're trying to copy the campiness of Adam
The old
West.
TV show.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
Right.
Which are the ones that Batman's got nipples?
The
Batman
Joker
Forever.
one.
Schumacher ones.
That's
Yeah.
the one with
Yeah.
Val Kilmer and then George Clooney.
George Clooney.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But I know I do really appreciate this film a lot. It is
Yeah.
one of my favorites even to this day. So, yeah, it was fantastic.
So here's the thing, you know, this movie was a very influential movie. I mean, not only on Hollywood, on superheroes. Like every superhero movie that came out after this was influenced by this film. The lighting, you know, the costume, the music, Danny Elfman's music. Now, one of the things about this movie that we haven't mentioned yet is that it is out of time. It's made in 1989, but what time period is it set in? They're driving 1940s cars. They're dressed like 1930s gangsters with Tommy guns kind of thing.
Yeah.
The music is a little bit retro. The obviously the architecture. I mean, that's different. Architecture, you know. But put it this way: there's no modern architecture. It's
Yeah.
all
No.
architecture of a certain period and older. It's sort of brutalism, but of an older period, right?
Right.
So I know that other movies did it since then, like Pulp Fiction did it, where it's like, is it the 70s? Is it the 90s? I can't tell.
Yeah.
But this movie, other than the inclusion of the Prince soundtrack.
I was gonna say, besides
Yeah,
Prince,
yeah,
other than
there's
that,
nothing.
This movie was out of
Yeah.
time, and that's one of the key things that I think, I'm assuming it was Tim Burton's idea, but again, that was brilliant.
It was.
Because you take a character created in 1939, you put him in the modern day, but not really, and that's part of what I think makes him work. Another thing is the lighting. Okay, I love Christopher Nolan. I love Christian Bale.
Yeah.
But Christian Bale in the Batman movies, he looks like a cosplayer. You don't you don't have this lighting. Hey, look, here's my Batman costume. You can see all the the zippers and everything. This movie knows lighting. It knows mood. It knows camera angle. My favorite shot in the whole movie is when at the beginning of the film, the part actually Roman wasn't here for it. When the two guys are sitting counting the money that they ripped off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
way in the background, Batman floats down.
Yep.
And then right before that, there's this weird scene where Batman's cape is animated. Did you notice that?
I really noticed
it
that.
was. But here's the thing: in 1989, the human eye was not trained.
Right.
And we didn't understand. Is it animation? We didn't know. So when that scene happened, I remember like people whispering, "Look, it's Batman," and people had to point because the screen was so big, like to the side of the screen. And then when the guys are talking and he floats down in the background, never in a Christopher Nolan movie would you see that. That's, to me, great filmmaking, great cinematography, suspense, right? So, yeah, like, again, we're kind of reiterating what we already said, but creating that mood, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. Like,
Batman doesn't want to be seen, so you don't want to show him. Like, as
He's
a
always in
director, you
shadow.
don't.
Yeah, he is.
He's trying to hide, so
Vic-
hide him.
Vicky Vale's trying to like get into his face, and he's turning his body, and he stands up, and obviously it's a movie, so we know that he's standing in a certain spot, but he's in complete shadow. You can't see him. That's how you do it. Remember when she's riding in the Batmobile, and she's like looking over at him, and he's like turning his head. And
He's like turning on the light that
Right,
shines in her
yes.
face. And
It's not just for the sake of his secret identity. It's for the sake of the movie.
Yeah.
It makes Batman cooler.
But strategically lit as well, because there's a lot of
Yes.
eye lighting, so you could see where
I
he's
noticed
looking.
that.
You could see what his mood is.
Yes,
he's
yes.
not completely. He still has a character, even though
Right.
you can't really see him.
I think that's what makes Michael Keaton such a great Batman and Bruce Wayne as well. like sorry to kind of jump right into characters
well,
now, but
we're gonna talk about that.
yeah, but he plays both so well. Like they feel like different characters almost. But when he is in the costume, you don't have the eyebrows and much of the top part of the face to emote, because it's this like hard molded plastic. But his eyes do all of the acting in those scenes. I think it's great.
So here's the thing: we have to remind people who were not alive at the time. At this time, Michael Keaton was known as being Mr. Mom.
Right.
Yep.
He was known as Beetlejuice.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Night
He
Shift.
And you gonna talk about Night Shift?
Ron Howard's Night Shift. He
My
was in
favorite
that.
movie. You're gonna mention Night Shift on this podcast? I saw Night Shift the year it came out. My favorite comedy of all time. I haven't memorized.
I think we've just been demoted.
Yeah, it's been demoted. We're gonna talk about Night Shift now. This is a Night Shift episode.
And as always, I'm joined by my co-host Terry Pender.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll do another episode of Night Shift, but let me just say, he was a superstar in that movie, and then he did Mr. Mom, and then he did Gung Ho. So he was a comedian, and announcing Michael Keaton as Batman in 1989 or whatever would have been like saying, okay, and in the next Superman movie we have Will Ferrell playing Superman.
Right.
Everyone was like, what the hell is going on? So most of the public, they wrote letters to Warner Brothers like, why did you cast this guy? Yeah, it was a huge deal. And then he came out and everyone shut up because he was incredible.
I think for him to take on that mantle, I mean, he had to give it his all for the performance, because so many were against his coming out in this dramatic performance, because he had been known as the funny man throughout the 1980s, and he was known for his comedic personality. And I think that because everyone had been against his casting, except for Tim Burton, who really fought for him.
Right.
It gave him more drive and determination in his role to really give that great performance, which explains why he managed to wow everyone and the audience when they actually did watch him in the film.
Not to mention, he does allow some of his comedic underpinnings to shine through, particularly
Michael
when he's
Keaton
playing
is a chameleon.
when he's playing
he can
Bruce
play
Wayne.
literally any role.
Yeah.
But he's got this sort of scatterbrained sort of irreverence to him that the more serious actor probably wouldn't be able to pull off.
It's also like his dryness too, like how he kind of performs it, because somebody else with the same script might not have made those jokes work or even happen. They might not have even felt like jokes, but he kind of he's able to take these little pieces and make them work.
Well, and like for example, when he first meets Vicky Vale and like she says hi to him and he kind of looks the other way,
right?
And then when they're sitting at the long dinner table and she's like, "Do you like eating this room?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." What? And he kind of looks around. I've never been in this room. You're right. No other actor would have done that line in that way, or even found that moment.
Or when they're the two of them are talking about the costumes.
Yes.
He's like, "Where do you think that one's from?" He's like, "Japan."
Yeah.
Why? Oh, how do you know? Oh, because I bought it. That's where I bought it.
I bought it in Japan.
It's like he does it so well that it's funny. Where if Christian Bale's take on it, it would be like,
no,
because I bought it, or like,
I know,
you know what I mean, or like,
I love Christian Bale, but he's not a stand-up comedian.
But,
exactly,
and it was a great moment when he's like, when he's talking about the bar in The Dark Knight, and he's like, I just bought it, or whatever, right? Like it's that same feeling of like him being like,
I trying to be like acting like a playboy, but
it wasn't funny when Christian Bale did it. Michael Keaton is able to take this serious thing. Nobody else in the room is laughing, but us like watching it. It's a great moment.
It's funny because when he's playing Bruce Wayne, he's playing funny Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
But then he brings this other thing where he just plays the best Batman ever.
Like,
how did he pull this off? He invented the Batman voice.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was his idea. He's like, wait a minute, if I'm talking to Vicky Vale as Bruce Wayne, and then 10 minutes later I'm talking to her as Batman, I should have he's like, why don't I just have a different voice? And he's like, why don't I just talk like this? And now every other actor imitates that, including Kevin Conroy or whoever it may be. So genius actor. Okay, we have to jump though. There's another genius actor that actually got top billing in this movie.
Right, yeah.
That's Jack Nicholson as the Joker. At the time, he was probably the biggest star in Hollywood at the time. And I must also point out, not only was he the highest paid actor at the time, he might be the highest paid actor in history because of this movie.
Right.
Because not only did he get his salary for doing Batman, part of his deal was that he got a percentage of Batman and Batman Returns, and I think any other Batman sequel
And
Really?
merchandise
Wow.
too.
and merchandise.
Yeah,
of
from the movie,
everything.
yeah.
So is he still getting paid for
As
like
Yeah.
far as I
Christopher
know,
Nolan Batman?
today,
films?
No.
Or
Just
just
the
maybe just
the-
that
yeah.
franchise.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he was at the time. I remember the number being thrown around was 75 million, but and that was 1989 dollars.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
So it's a lot of money. So okay, so Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I mean, obviously we all love Heath Ledger. We all love Joaquin Phoenix. We don't love Jared Leto, but we all love all those other actors. But Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I mean, what do you think? I mean, again, star-making performance. He was already a star. But.
Yeah, it is one of the better performances. He is kind of doing a Jack Nicholson
Impression?
shtick. Yeah,
Yeah.
It does kind of feel like a Jack Nicholson impression, but I think it works. Like it fits the tone of the movie. He has a very unique look as well as the Joker. Like that makeup is not.
I'm
is
scared.
pretty-
I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight because I still don't know how they did his freaking smile.
right.
I kept
yeah.
thinking about that while I was watching the movie too. I'm like, how did they pull that off?
Yeah, because I think it's all in like the cheekbones. Like it has to be like
Yeah.
prosthetics.
There's gotta be
that,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And even when he's like frowning, like you can see that he's upset, but it like curves up, and it's just so unsettling. And
Yes.
and I think because they chose to do it practical and
Yes.
like had that in, and even when it's a little bit wonky at times, it helps it. I
It
think
totally
You know what I
works,
mean?
yeah.
Like it gives you the like.
Yeah, his
ooh,
face is supposed to be all messed
Yeah.
up, so when it's a
Right.
little bit more
Yeah.
messed up, then
Right.
Yeah, it works.
I love how they did layers on this as well, right?
Yes.
Like he's made up to be the Joker, but then he makes himself up again on top of
Yeah,
that.
that's
Crazy.
Yeah.
To be
twice,
Napier
at
again.
least
Yeah.
twice.
And
Yeah.
he's wiping
Yeah.
off his makeup to show the makeup underneath, and it's
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Terry, what do you think of Jack Nicholson as the Joker?
I mean, I think again another great performance from him. You can tell as well that he must have had so much fun even getting into character and
Yes.
playing that part as well.
Yes.
I do think that he kind of embodied a few elements from Cesar Romero's Joker prior to him, from the Adam West series. But he also brought so much of his own to the table, which made him stand out so much differently, and it made it very unique on his end. But I really appreciate about his level of unpredictability. And I think that's what makes him even more menacing and intimidating is you don't really know what he's going to say or do next. And to anyone who is just coming into contact with him, like Vicky Vale, that's frightening. That is absolutely terrifying to even be in the presence of this guy who you don't know what he's going to say or what he's going to do. And it's one of those movies that you watch where, and similar to Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, where you're kind of rooting for the villain almost.
At times, like I'm having fun watching him, and I'm scared when he's like dancing through the art museum.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like it's,
I'm not rooting for him.
but you can't stop watching. You want
but
more.
He's
Yeah.
it's
He
just
he
like-
reels you in. Like,
right.
he
Yeah.
has your
It's like,
attention. and
what's his name in A Clockwork Orange? Is it Alex?
Alex, Malcolm
he's
McDowell, the actor.
So
Yeah.
charismatic and so funny and so
Yep.
intelligent that you can't take your eyes off of him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what presence you need for Joker. He has more. Like here's the thing: is I do love Heath Ledger as the Joker, but you want to talk about one-liners in this film.
It's great.
Like you're watching this film, even if you don't quite know what's going on, they just cut to, okay, let's just have a Joker scene again.
Yeah.
He's just going to say
Yeah.
something funny. Everyone in this bar was laughing. And that's the thing about this movie that it does better than Nolan's films or Matt Reeves' the Batman film. This is a crowd pleaser. It's designed for an audience. It's almost more theatrical. It knows it has an audience and it entertains that audience.
it's
Ian
got
Wheaton.
it's got a self-awareness
Yes.
to it. Like it knows what it is. It knows what it has to do.
Yeah.
It's not taking itself too seriously.
Right.
And historically, Batman has never taken itself that seriously, like from its beginnings. And this is quite a bit darker than the '60s
Yeah.
TV
Yeah.
series, but it does. It knows what it is, and it's not going to try and pretend to be super dark and brooding.
Yeah.
It's going
Well,
to try and make you laugh.
Now
It
there's
can be
Batman
in a different
films.
way.
What,
You,
Like, sorry, what?
It's campy in a different way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not campy in that it's like goofy, but it's everything is amped up. It's not the real world, and we know that,
Yeah,
right? Like
it's hard to because it's then you have Christopher Nolan's Batmans, which are hyper realistic, and they take themselves seriously,
right.
But there's still a little bit of fun. But then you've Matt Reeves, the Batman,
It's
which
so
takes
dark.
itself so seriously.
Right.
There's no fun, and there's a quality to that as well.
Yeah.
But it's different. This it rides the line.
Yeah.
It's almost like Jack Nicholson's Batman could fit into the Adam West Batman series, but Michael Keaton doesn't fit into the Adam West Batman
Right.
series.
Yeah,
And here's
yeah.
the funny thing. I remember in 1988 when they announced this film, and they were having these press releases. They were like, Tim Burton has said that Michael Keaton's Batman costume will be nothing like the Adam West costume, and I was like, why not? What's wrong? What's wrong with the Adam West costume? I don't understand. And we should point out that it was Tim Burton's idea to say, let's just make it all black. Why not make it all black?
Wow.
And then because of that, now the comics he's usually in black. All the movies he's in black. But if it wasn't for Tim Burton, we'd still have the Adam West,
Yeah.
Tights.
pot belly
Yeah.
tights with the blue and the gray and the yellow and the.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh, could you imagine what direction the Batman franchise would have gone in had
well, Joe
had they tried
Schumacher.
that?
I mean, imagine if he had bat nipples, but yeah, that's a whole other story.
Yeah. No, this really did change Batman forever. It
Yes.
changed superheroes forever.
Yes.
Like
It
it changed so much, and I definitely a lot of that has to do with Tim Burton, as you said. I mean, the
Yes.
costume, the making Gotham City so like gothic and gritty, and
We're going to be reviewing in upcoming episodes the Flash TV show. We're going to be reviewing Dick Tracy. These are all influenced by this movie, by Tim Burton's vision. But we still have a lot to talk about, though. So
Okay,
we
yeah.
still got to keep talking about this movie. Let's talk about Kim Basinger. So here's the thing. Before this movie came out, I had not really heard of Kim Basinger, but she had done a few movies. Did she do 9.5 weeks?
Yes, she did.
She did 9.5 weeks, so that was probably why they picked her for this film. The original choice for Vicky Vale was Sean Young, who we know from Blade Runner.
oh,
Yes,
okay,
there was issues.
Interesting.
I think she might have broken a bone or something and couldn't do the
Oh.
film. So Kim Basinger was the second choice. I gotta be honest. She's my second least favorite actor in this film. I just don't like her. I don't think she's great. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think part of that has to do with the script for me.
Okay.
Big part of it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
she starts off as almost the main character, like we're almost seeing things through her
Sure.
perspective, and then once Batman shows up, they're forget her. Like she has no
Yes.
part in the story really
Yes.
at all, besides being Bruce's love interest. Like there's nothing
agree with that,
for her
yeah.
to do. At the start, we kind of see her trying to put it together. She's a
You're right,
photographer.
yes.
She's like solving what's going on, and then she's just kind of sidelined so the Joker and Batman can do their thing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It got off on a very. It was promising. It was
Yeah.
promising, and
think so.
there's some. I don't know, the fact that a photographer we're seeing it through a photographer's eyes, right?
Yeah.
It could have been an interesting way to frame the entire film.
Yeah.
But as soon as she meets Bruce Wayne, she's relegated
Yeah.
to. It's not even Bruce Wayne's love interest. It's that he is her love interest, and that is basically her entire character.
Ugh.
How come you don't love me? And
Yep.
from this point, all she does is scream when she's startled
Yep.
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
and,
Screams
and
a
lose
lot.
consciousness. It's
Yep.
It's unfortunate.
it's very unfortunate because for a minute at the beginning, it looked as though this might be a strong
Yeah.
character, but
Yeah.
they just didn't do anything with it.
We also don't even see them really fall in love. You know what I mean? Like
No.
you don't.
No.
There's no
Well,
chemistry
Well, she's
between
like,
them really
I just
at
want to
all.
know, are we going to try to love each other? I'm like,
And,
what
and
movie
this,
are you in?
you're,
Yeah.
and at this point,
Yeah.
you're
Where's
2
the
minutes like you've just discovered
Yeah.
that Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne is
Oh, that
Batman,
scene was-
and you don't even mention it, like
Clearly, there's a deleted scene. There's got to be a
There
deleted
has to
scene.
be.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
That
Better
was
be,
so bad.
because
Yeah.
that just
Was the writer strike also not happening at the same
You
time?
know what? You might be onto something. Yes, I think Sam Hamm wrote the script. You're right. And then there was a
So
writer's
maybe there was
strike.
only like
That
the
could be.
first
Yep.
version of it, and they just went ahead.
And I'll tell you right now, and I don't want to. We'll get to you, Terry.
Sure.
But I'll tell you right now, the whole church scene with the cathedral was made up on the spot. Basically, I think the producers were like, "Okay, we built the cathedral, so
Great
your
set,
film-
by the way.
Yeah, it's a great set, but it's like write a scene like tomorrow, and you're going to be filming there tomorrow night.
Whoa.
or
You know,
whatever.
that kind of tracks because that's one of the scenes
Yeah.
that really kind of drags.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Kim Basinger, Terry. What do you think about
to
her?
go off of the perspectives of these gentlemen? I do think that her coming in, she seemed like a very strong character, and she was very independent, and she had control of her career, where she was going with it, what she wanted to do. And then as soon as she started kind of falling, we'll say, for this Bruce Wayne character, it seemed like she didn't have control or a say in really anything at that point. And she was chasing after a story maybe, or just more like this guy does the love of her life. It almost seems like she forgot about what her original objective was and what she wanted to do with herself.
Maybe the writers forgot, right?
Yeah.
The writers
yeah.
certainly forgot,
I do-
and
I
it's a
do
good.
think
It's a
it's-
good point that she started off like that. One of her very first scenes is like, look at this badass assignment that I just came
Yeah.
back from
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this dangerous war zone.
Well,
Like-
you see Robert Wall's character come in as what was his name in the movie?
Alexander Knox.
No, the reporter guy.
Alexander
Yeah.
Knox.
Alexander
Yeah.
Knox.
Knox.
No, why am I thinking the corrupt cop for Alexander?
That's
Knox?
that's
Oh, no,
that's
that's,
Lieutenant Eckhart.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, that's
Eckhart,
right. Okay,
Eckhart,
you're right. So sorry. So Knox,
Yeah.
Knox comes in, and he already seems to be kind of like the joke of the place, right?
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't really take him serious. But her first appearance there, she had her legs like up on his desk and everything, right there. So she's very in control, very in charge. And then from there it just went really downhill. So
Yeah. Why wasn't she the one to figure it out? Why wasn't she the one to be like, Bruce Wayne is Batman?
right.
Well, maybe
It-
that scene was filmed.
you know, 'cause
not included in the final.
As it
cut.
stands right now,
Yeah.
Alfred just goes,
Oh, yeah.
Hey, why
Guess
don't
what,
you
Bruce?
tell her?
I
and
blew
then-
the secret.
I know.
Oops.
Yeah.
Like, he just walks in with her in the Batcave. You don't see Alfred and her have a moment together.
No.
Like, it's...
Well, it's either bad editing or bad writing, or so there's something. And they actually
Yeah.
address it in Batman Returns. They actually make a joke about it, so which we'll talk about in a few weeks.
okay.
Yeah, it's a plot hole. It's a plot hole in editing. Unfortunately, with this film, and I believe this is a Warner Brothers trend, there's no deleted scenes on any DVD as far as I know.
Really?
Oh, really?
wow.
Yeah. That's what they say to their audiences, Warner Brothers. Anyway,
Well,
so-
there's also a deleted Batgirl movie, too, starring Michael Keaton.
Oh
so
yeah, that's a whole other story.
maybe
talk
we'll
about
see.
that.
Maybe we'll see that one day.
Yeah, maybe. So okay, we got a couple more actors to talk about quick. Let's talk about. We already mentioned him. I guess we got to talk about him. What's his name again? Robert
Wall. Yeah.
Robert Wuhl. Ooh, I guess he's supposed to be the comic relief, the funny guy, except he's not funny.
No.
I honestly
I-
didn't like his character one bit.
I
Terry, what do you
never
think?
heard. I never heard about him.
No one has.
prior to watching this movie. I never knew this actor. I got the feeling, even watching as a kid, that he must have been kind of like Michael Keaton, where he was funny in the '80s, made a bunch of movies.
He wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, who is this
He's
guy?
never been seen before or after.
Yeah.
Maybe he was like the producer's buddy. Like, listen, you're gonna get my buddy in this film. Give him a couple lines, right? Give him a
Yeah.
big part. Like,
Yeah.
he did nothing. Yeah, I've never seen him in anything. right?
Yeah, it's strange because I think maybe his character would have a bit of a payoff if we saw more of Vicky Vale, because we can use him to show how competent she is by how incompetent he is, right? So
Yes.
you can have the duality of the two of them, but because we don't get enough of them, he is just kind of there for a lot of it, saying jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian, what do you think of his jokes?
Did he make jokes? I don't know. I thought he was just kind of like a goofy loser.
Yeah.
He actually made a few actual jokes. Like, they're bad though. Like,
The Bruce Wayne,
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Glass.
But there was also, remember when he was like, "Oh, I'm not on the guest list." No. Yes. Like, just bad writing, but also bad delivery by him. And I have to give one thing. We mentioned there's no deleted scenes. If you read the comic book adaptation by Denny O'Neil and Jerry Ordway, there's actually scenes and lines in the comic book that are not in the finished film. And there's a little bit more with him. at the end, you know when there's like the gas in the city
Yeah.
and like the dollar bills, there's actually a scene where you see that the dollar bills are all counterfeit and all of the Joker's face.
Oh, that's
and
great.
There's a little bit more with him, where I think the police find Batman in the wreckage of like whatever, and they pull off his costume. It's Alexander Knox.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's badly written. What can you?
Strange. Does his character ever come back in the 1989 comics?
Absolutely not.
No, he's just gone.
Never. No, he's done. Okay, a couple more actors to talk about quick. Is it Michael? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Michael Gough?
I always say Gough.
Gough?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's his.
I just gotta say, I know him from the Hammer horror films. He's a great actor. Alfred, in my opinion, the best Alfred ever.
He's
What do you
great.
think, Tim?
I agree. I first Alfred that I ever came to see
Yes.
as a kid growing up. There's something so genuine and
Yes.
authentic about him, so caring, and he doesn't really. I guess like in these movies, he doesn't seem to be too pushing on Bruce Wayne. Give up this kind of life, you know.
Right.
Don't do this. Like I care a lot about you, kind of the way Michael Caine was in the Christian Bale trilogy. I feel like he was like Batman's biggest supporter in these movies.
Okay.
And
But also criticizing him a little bit for not
Falling in love,
Vicky
yeah,
Vale.
yeah.
after he has
Yeah,
sex with
for
her.
those little things. But I mean, again, if he wants her to be happy or him to be happy with Vicky Vale, that's also making him a proud supporter for his
Okay,
love
okay.
life, you know. So just very caring.
Ian, what do you think of Michael Gough?
Kindly old man.
Yes.
He's just so nice.
Perfect.
Just yeah, just a nice
I
guy.
agree. He's like a grandfather figure.
Never got
Yeah.
frustrated with this scatterbrained Bruce Wayne just
Yes.
like putting a wine glass on the
And
corner
then
of the
picking
table.
it up.
It's like,
Oh, great.
Yeah.
he's just following him around, just patiently sweeping up after him, and
Yeah, it's great that
salt of the earth type.
you totally get who this character is just in that introduction scene of Wayne Manor. And there's no more, this is my butler, Alfred. We just are following him, handing out drinks, and like taking.
And you also get a sense that Bruce Wayne wouldn't be able to get anything
Right.
done
Yes.
without him.
Yeah,
he's
It's
taking
not
care
mentioned, but you
of-
just see him kind of swimming in his
Yeah,
wake. Just
he's
kinda-
taking care of them without
but also-
saying anything. There's no dialogue.
Right,
There's-
but also
yeah.
when he says, Commissioner Gordon was called away, rather abruptly. So.
Yeah,
And then
he's stepping on his foot.
and then he walks his,
Yeah.
perhaps the other way. It's
Yeah.
like, it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
it. And the thing is I feel like, I think it was Alan Napier in the Adam West TV show was great.
Yep.
This guy's great. And then Jeremy Irons, who's the one in the Nolan films?
So
Oh,
that's
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. Yeah.
Sorry, don't like him. Don't like him as Alfred. Don't like Michael Caine. Don't like Jeremy Irons. Don't like who's the other one? Oh, Andy Serkis. Get
Oh,
the hell out
yeah.
of here.
Andy Serkis
He's the
is-
worst. I'm sorry, but Alfred was in World War I. He was a soldier. He kicked ass, man. Did you know that? No, I don't give a shit. Because Alfred is not supposed to be that guy. He's supposed to
Yeah.
be what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the wise old man that helps Bruce Wayne along. Whatever. I think he's the best Alfred. What do you think?
He's definitely the best movie adaptation, Alfred. He's so close to the comics. Like I feel like
He is the comic one.
yeah,
Yes,
like
I agree.
he's the one character that feels almost directly
Yes.
one for one transferred from the comics.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
I
he's
agree.
great. Although I do like Michael Caine as Alfred in the Nolan films. I think
He's
you know what I
good.
mean. Like
just
he's
not
right
my
for
Alfred.
that
Yeah.
story.
He's just not
but,
quite
yeah.
Alfred.
That's
in
fair.
my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about all the actors. I think. Should we talk about the plot? Is it worth talking
Oh,
about?
there's one more actor.
Oh,
we
one
can't.
more.
I don't know who he is on the list, but the guy who played Lieutenant Eckhart is one of my favorite characters in the
so
film.
great.
Oh, you
Yeah.
mean the guy who was in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah.
As one of the guys at the beginning of the film who was being lectured to Indy about. Remember? He was the one that brought the
No,
book.
I don't remember that.
He brought the book to Indy. He was one of the two guys that brought the book to Indy.
Did he look
Yeah,
as
yeah.
greasy and
No, completely different.
Okay.
I
Oh, wow.
feel like this guy also plays almost the same character in another movie, like
I think
Corrupt
he-
Cop. I'm trying to remember what it was.
I don't know what it is, but he was also in Superman 4, which we reviewed on this show.
Oh, boy.
He was one of the guys that was with Lex Luthor that Lex Luthor kicked out of the room. Remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was also in something else. I did a meme about this. I created the meme. It went viral. Whatever. But he played like a bunch of roles in films where no one knew that it was the same actor playing all these roles. But he's a great actor. He's a great character.
Well, I mean, in terms of casting a person to play that particular role, I don't think you could cast a better actor in any role than him in this greasy, corrupt cop role.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Weirdly enough, he's like he fits the role better than Michael Keaton or Jack Nicholson. Like he's great. Yeah,
and it goes right down to like the gravelly voice.
Yes. Yeah. The cigar.
You ain't got no future,
the way
Jack.
he flicks the cigar at the It's
also we should point out in the comics there's a character named Harvey Bullock, and he is Harvey Bullock.
Yeah.
He's just not called Harvey Bullock.
Yeah.
Right.
Terry, did you have anything else to say?
I kind of feeling like there's two other actors that we haven't really shined on that we should. One
Bob the Goon. Okay, let's talk about Bob the Goon. 10 minutes. Bob the Goon. Go.
Bob the Goon was good. I did like him too.
Okay,
I sort of like that hanger on.
Yeah, he's
Well, I'm curious as to what you guys thought of Jack Palance as Carl Grissom.
Oh yes, Jack Palance. See, okay, again, when Champion and I saw this film when we were in 1989, Jack Palance he'd already been in like 200 films, so he was already like he was that guy. And to be honest, at the time, I thought he was a little bit like. I'm not cliche, none of a cliche, but just kind of like I was a little bit tired of him. But I mean, now when I watch the movie, deliciously chewing the scenery, awesome. You know what I mean? What did you think, Ian?
I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a standout, but he didn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
He had a couple of good moments. When he's reaching for the gun.
Yeah, I was gonna say when he downs
his
the
drink and he's like, "Oh, my drink is empty."
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
I kind of liked the over top kind of emotion he was putting into when he would grab the shoulders of Jack Nicholson. And like breathe really heavy. You know, I'm like, So he was very interesting for me. I thought.
I love how that set up Jack Nicholson for doing the same. Scene too, but just going turning it up to 11.
I also have to point out in every Batman film, there's always an old veteran who plays that role. In Batman Returns, it was Max Schreck, which was Christopher Walken.
Walken.
And then in Batman Begins, it was Rutger Hauer.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then in the Batman, it was Italian guy. What's his name?
Oh man. John
Turturro.
Yes, they
John
always
Turturro.
get this guy, this veteran, like bring him in to be the crime boss. Like, always, it's a great tradition. I love it.
One last thing, I'm just curious as well. So, how did you guys find chilling at all the performance? I don't know the actor's name. I wish I did, but the younger Jack. One of my favorite scenes in the movie.
When I was watching it today, I'm like, why did this guy not go on to bigger things? He was perfect.
Why didn't he just play the Joker the whole film? Like he was great. He was
perfect.
Yeah, he was very good.
Like, I kind of got Malcolm McDowell vibes from him, even like
Just that angular face and
the
big
teeth,
smile.
the bright teeth. Yes,
he had the Joker face without any of the prosthetic.
But that scene was helped along by editing and sound design as well. Just slowing everything down and just the strategic echoes and.
You know what? Okay, there's one thing I've seen this movie 700 times. But this time around, there's the one thing that stood out that I didn't quite appreciate before, and that's Jerry Hall as Jack Nicholson's as Joker's girlfriend.
Yep.
Because to write that character, to be like, okay, we're going to have this beautiful girl be his girlfriend, and then, and scene 3, we're going to have her have this mask on and this eerie music. You're like, what the hell is going on? And then show her again with this weird, Jack, I thought we were going to look at paintings. And then they introduce her again, and he takes the mask off, and her face is all, what the fuck? Who wrote this? This lunatic wrote this. And then we find out later he takes the mask. Oh, she jumped off a ledge or whatever he says. Like, who? This is insanity. No one would write this nowadays. This is crazy. That was the thing that I noticed. Obviously, it was in the movie before I noticed it, but I appreciated it more this time around. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, that was great. There were moments like that for me too where I didn't even notice. Like, obviously, again, I've seen the movie before, but like seeing it again now, I was like, whoa, I really appreciated that. Like, every time the Joker takes over the news station,
Sure.
I don't know why. I don't remember it being so out there. Like
Sure.
it's so cartoony. Like it.
Yeah.
And on purpose, right? Like the Joker himself is putting on this performance, and
Yes,
it's
yes.
really great. So there's always
almost
moments
like-
like that in this
yeah.
film that are different
Weird.
standout moments every time you watch it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just and like it's almost like this movie has rough edges that today would be cut out or be smoothed over.
Yeah.
And like the scene where they go to her apartment, and I want to talk about architecture. The architecture of Vicky Vale's apartment is the best in the
Amazing.
whole movie. Incredible. And then this weird scene where Bruce Wayne comes in and he wants to confess to her. And again, Michael Keaton's acting is great. But then the whole thing of why does he stick around? Why does he think to himself, I'm gonna mouth off to the Joker, but just to prepare for that, I'm gonna put this food tray in
Yeah.
my thing. It's just like a weird decision. And then that's where you get the famous line, "You want to get nuts? Let's get
I
nuts."
love that.
But it's like
It feels
they
a little out of place.
yeah, they
Like,
could have
it's just-
so easily cut that out, but I think it adds to it. But it's also, like you said, out of place. Like it's
Yeah.
not. It's a movie that kind of goes in these weird directions sometimes. Like, what did you think of that, Ian?
That entire scene in Vicky Vale's apartment is a bunch of weird directions, and some of it's kind of problematic when
Yeah.
he's shoving her to the ground and
Yeah,
telling her
like
to shut up.
shoving-
Yeah.
I really like you, but shut up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's the entire room gasping, like,
yeah.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't do that nowadays.
Yep.
But then it's followed by a kind of like a pretty funny and sort of endearing scene when she goes to answer the door and he's like, "I'm Batman,"
Yes, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
mouthing the words "I'm Batman," and the back and forth between Bruce Wayne and the Joker
Right.
is,
Right.
I think it's spectacular, and a lot of that Jack Nicholson is just fantastic. Just the way he's hanging on every word, right? Like he's in control of the situation, but he's kind of like, what is
Yeah.
this guy up to?
He's got
And
that.
Yeah,
he's-
like,
he
and
sort of
he's also
voluntarily
confused.
takes.
He's genuinely confused. Like, what is he going to say next? What is
Yeah.
like the Joker's face is like, what is this story? Where are you going with this story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he tells the story about.
But while this is happening, Michael Keaton he's looking at the fragments of the mask that the
Yes.
Joker smashed. He just casually
Beautiful.
picks them up and throws them in the fireplace.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Also, I have to point out something. Was Vicky Vale eating popcorn?
She grabbed a bowl of
She had a
popcorn
bowl
from the
and there
mantle.
was popcorn
Fuck is this
in the
movie?
bowl.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean. This 1989 was chaos. They were filming this movie in Meteor. Like with Ian, like it was just anything goes. Okay, you want to have her eating popcorn? It was crazy. Like I'm watching this movie. I've seen it again 700 times. How did I not notice this? She's eating popcorn the whole. Did you notice this?
Maybe.
Go back and watch it. It's insane.
Maybe
I don't know if she's eating
maybe-
popcorn, but
I
she
think-
clutches the
okay,
bowl to her chest.
She has a bowl and it's popcorn, and it's
But
insane.
I'm feeling maybe the popcorn was like a little
A
subtle
callback.
note about him being at the movies at the theater when he lost his
and then
Maybe.
parents.
him saying like the line, and then
Because
Bruce
wasn't
putting
in,
the two
in
and
that
two
background
together.
or in that flashback, he was eating popcorn from the
Okay,
bag.
and
Good
then
point, good
the
point.
pearls fall, and then the popcorn falls
Yeah.
on the
Look at
pearls.
this.
We just
All
had that
this
realization
film
same
analysis
time.
here.
Yeah.
Pearls
It's
and
like you work in
popcorn.
animation or
Yeah.
something. Okay.
Oldest trick in the book.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's
Yeah.
good. That's true. So maybe it all does tie together. I thought it was just random insanity, but maybe it does tie together.
No, I think it's
Yeah.
random insanity.
I
Yeah,
found,
it's a little
I found that the scene in the apartment too was actually very important for Bruce Wayne's character because like here he's lived a life of hiding and being behind the shadows, and here you're learning a little more about him when he reiterates that story.
Yeah.
But also like for him to kind of lash out even when he's swinging the poker from the fireplace, and you see that different emotion in him. There's
Right,
a lot that
that's
he's
Bruce
hiding
Wayne, that's
deep
Right.
inside.
Batman, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
it's a
that's
great
finally
scene.
now coming out.
And it's like he says the craziest line, and then of course Jack Nicholson comes in and like somehow beats it
Yeah.
with like also the an even crazier line that
Yeah.
still
Oh,
does
the-
it like
the devil.
you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's so weird, but
But I love the genuine reaction from Bruce too when he looked at him. He's like, "What?
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What?" Like
It's
he
very
instant,
active.
like he remembered
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
Yep. That was beautiful.
yeah, it was.
Okay, so there's one thing I have to say, and I have to give credit to Kevin Smith, because Kevin Smith did a full-length commentary on this film, and an episode of, I don't know what show, it might have been, I don't know what it was, doesn't matter. He made a really good observation that I never noticed in the first 699 times I saw the film.
You notice it now, though.
Yeah. So Batman crashes through the window into the art gallery, and he doesn't kick ass. He doesn't beat the shit out of Joker's goons. He grabs Vicky Vale and runs away for the next 15 minutes. Get into the car. Run. Drive. Run.
Park the car.
Park the car. Run. In any other Batman movie,
Great crash with a lot of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So much cabbage.
Directed by whoever directed 48 Hours, directed Bat-Tacular. But like,
no empty boxes, but
well, wasn't that like, again, now that Kevin Smith has said that, I'm like, what? It's true. Why didn't he fight there? Like, why did he just run? Is that stupid? Is that bad?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it's the whole gas thing. I don't know. They don't really talk about it or explain it. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
But now that you think of, you know that, when you look at it, you go, why didn't he just kick all their asses?
well, maybe they weren't ready to put a big fight scene in there yet. They wanted to save that for a little bit later on.
Yeah.
It's
building up to the masterpiece,
the cathedral
scene.
fight.
Let's talk about. Okay, let's just talk about the fight scenes. Okay, because a couple minutes later, he does fight someone in the street. Remember, he fights someone in the street.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like
a great at the end of the scene when he's like,
yeah, that was good. It was
The guy
with
with the
Bob
swords
Lagoon. With
and
Bob
yeah,
Lagoon,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
the sword guy. And then at the end in the cathedral, the ad-lib scene was made up on the spot. It's like, let's just bring out, like, was that black dude in the movie before they brought him out?
I don't remember.
Yeah, let's just bring out this big black dude to just beat the shit out of Batman. And then,
like
what was that?
the guy, that gigantic guy
Yeah.
that was there the entire movie, falls through the floor for no reason. It's like,
Yeah.
why not have him, like
know.
Joker's big bad goon that's there the whole time, fight Batman? And it would also like be a good reason for Batman to be losing this fight.
Yeah.
No, it's just a random Joker goon.
The thing is I think Tim Burton is a really good director, especially at this time. Not now. But he doesn't quite know how to direct action, and it shows in this movie. I think the shooting and the lighting is great in this movie, but there's scenes where like the Batmobile's escaping, and it just looks like, oh, now
it's a little
I know.
flat.
Yeah, like now I
Flat.
know it's a movie. It's like a faraway shot of a car driving, whereas the car, if it was a little bit closer and in there in the action, it would have felt a little bit more exciting.
Yeah.
But he's just not great at directing action, I guess.
Which is maybe why they didn't have a fight scene in the museum, right?
maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
I'm sure he knows his own limitations. Maybe not.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I think
Yeah.
it's also the writing.
Unless it's
also,
just pacing too, and he was just waiting like to the end to kind of give you. That
I think it was
moment of the
pacing.
I mean, I
fighting.
don't want to fix it on that one thing. I'm just pointing
yeah,
out. Something.
moments of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We've talked about pretty much everything about this film. I think we all love it. We all agree it's flawed. It was a huge movie when it came out. I mean, there's 3 more sequels to go. There's only one more by Tim Burton, unfortunately.
I know.
But this was a game changer, as we all say. Like, and the thing is like, you know, I was reading Batman comics in 1988, and the Batman comics that came on after this were different than the ones that came before it. This is the defining moment in Batman, defining moment in superheroes. I don't know what else to say about it, but as flawed as it is, it still holds a special place in my heart. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. I grew up with this film. I don't think that there is anything else like the Tim Burton Batman movies. Like, they're very unique.
Yep.
They are a superhero movie, and we've seen Batman tons of times. We're gonna see him a ton more, but nothing is quite as special or unique as
I agree.
these. So,
Champion, what do you think?
Just to put it into perspective, I went to see Batman Begins in the theater.
Okay.
And as soon as I finished that film, I came home and I watched this again.
Oh, wow.
Just because, I mean, I don't know. It just didn't feel like Batman to me. So I needed to reset. I needed to watch the proper Batman film.
I gave a negative review to Batman Begins, but then I thought the sequel, The Dark Knight, was the best movie ever made. So we'll talk about that in a future episode. Terry, what'd you think? Final word.
It was just a very nostalgic piece to me, and it was so big for its time, and it created this little movement, and then many things started to follow the theme of this movie. I think it was really ahead of its time at the time, and again, as you said, it holds a special place in my heart. I also just thought too, I'd like to point out, when going back to Jerry Hall, I feel like her addition in this film is more to show the mental deterioration of the Joker's character, because how she came into it and how she started versus the end as to how she got and then eventually to her demise. I feel like the Joker just kind of destroys everything he touches.
Yeah.
Good point.
I just, you know, he's a
a very
toxicity,
good point.
which goes hand in hand with the toxicity that he came to experience when he fell into the vat of acid.
And the fact that it's just this little subplot is very clever.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes,
It's good writing. It's
absolutely,
good writing.
yes.
But here's the thing: we could talk about Batman all night, but guess what? We've got more Batman movies to talk about in the future, and we have more movies to talk about on this podcast.
That's right.
Every other week in Meteor, we're going to be talking in 2 weeks about Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren.
Can't wait.
Yes.
Can't
Yeah.
wait.
So yeah,
Also
that was
from 1989.
1989-90. This is
Okay,
Marvel's
so I'm
answer to
expecting it
Batman.
to be as spectacular a film as this.
as Batman, and Marvel thought the same thing.
Really?
Well, then.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
And it made a 1/1000th as much money. So we'll see how good the movie is.
Money isn't everything.
In 2 weeks. Okay, Josh.
And you can also check out the Meteor and Comic Book Syndicate Facebook page
Yes.
to get up-to-date events for local Windsor events. We're hosting movie nights every
Yes.
Wednesday night that
That's
we
right.
can here at Meteor in Windsor. So,
we're out of time.
yikes.
Okay, join us in a week, and then again in 2 weeks. Champion, thank you for having us at Meteor.
Thanks for
Terry,
being here as
thanks
always.
for being our
Yeah, thank
best
you so
guest
much.
ever. Actually,
Thank
our
you,
only
Terry.
guest ever.
We've had a few.
We've had 2. Okay, you're our second best. Okay,
Yay.
anyway, see you next time on Taped Crusaders.
All right.